I'm Chosen Architect, and this is Project Architect 2. Now, jumping back into some more Project Architect 2, today I have some big plans. Some major goals that I want to get done. And that is going to involve this EMC automation section that we're currently working towards. We're doing some deep research on all of these mobs that we gathered information on. And so today we are going to be setting out to, well, work on more automation for a lot of things. Now, taking a look at what we're going to need for the Architron, we are going to need a block of nitro. Now, a block of nitro seems kind of, meh at first, but in reality, what it takes to automate this is you're going to need Nether stars automated. And that's basically the only major gate in this particular autocraft. Everything else is EMC. So we need to definitely automate the wither, which is going to be a pretty fun task for the day. Most of the other stuff is pretty straightforward to do. However, there has been some changes. I've worked on the pack and I've updated the pack. So there's a lot of cool quality of life stuff that has been recently added, and I cannot wait to show those to you guys. Now, a lot of these changes were made by Shift the Dev and Iric the Coder. So I've had a lot of help thanks to them when it comes to getting a lot of this, I would say, dirty work done, essentially. And I am very appreciative of them. And this, for example, is one of those quality of life recipes. Right here, inside of a dissolution chamber. So yes, instead of doing the in-world, you can now do it inside of here, which is not too bad to do. Not super fast, but you can, remember, set up to like 4 machines per pattern provider. So you can have 4 of these up and running, which wouldn't be too bad. And same thing for the sky steel. So yes, and we're gonna need to actually dive into that to be able to get that Architron up and running, right? Because we need a flux accessor. And then as far as the blazing rod goes, I think this one's going to be not too bad. It doesn't have to be anything very specific. We essentially just need to put this inside of a blazing agitator in order to actually get what we need. So all in all, pretty straightforward. And I think today I definitely want to get a Nether star farm up and running. And I have a clever way of doing it, or at least I think it's going to be a clever way. Now, beside that, I am going to need more space. I know it may sound crazy that I'm going to need more space, but I am going to need new places to travel. I think I want to set up an area that is dedicated to Mekanism and Mekanism automation. And what I've done is I've built these portal frames. So we're going to have more Ars portals that are going to teleport us into new locations. And so I can just walk through here and it will teleport me right there. And of course, the way back out is going to be by walking this direction. And so these right here are going to be 4 brand new locations that we can travel to and house our automations. I really love the idea of just tricking my brain into thinking we're stepping into a new realm, even though that new realm may be, just a couple 100 blocks away. Now, to get the first thing done on the to-do list, I need to build myself a wither farm. That's right, we're gonna get our wither farm set up and start actually farming the wither. And inside of this room, if I turn on night vision, we can see it a lot clearer. This is where that magic is going to happen. And honestly, it kind of is going to feel like magic, because what I'm going to do is use a wither builder, this thing right here, which you should have already crafted if you've made it to this point. And I'm going to use this to summon the wither. Now, whenever we place this down, there's some information that we are going to find out about it whenever we show the work area. One being that there's a gap right underneath it. And that's for good reason. So the reason that gap exists in the first place is so it can be placed 1 block underneath something that is wither-proof. For example, this tinted glass. Now, there's a couple of ways we can go about doing this. I'm going to go about it in a way that allows me to pulse this with a redstone signal to spawn in the wither. And it's going to be set up on a very specific time interval, and we'll determine that based on how long it takes for the wither to, for example, spawn and then explode. But there are other ways you can do this. You could set this up in another room, or you can set this up like up here, for example, and you could spawn the wither with this, let it just run infinitely, and have a fan that blows the wither off of its platform down here, and then it just falls into a kill chamber. That's something you can totally do. In my case, I'm going to make a very simple version of this mob farm that doesn't involve any fans. Now, I know I'm a complete dork and I just placed the mob crusher down here. Believe me, this is where the wither builder is going to go. As far as the mob crusher goes, a little bit of a spoiler here, this is actually what is going to take the mobs out. So just like we used for the Chimera, this is going to work perfect for the wither too. And it's going to allow us to pretty much insta-kill the wither. Now, just for some safety, before we get started with this, I do want to make sure this is set where it will not run. So I do want this set into run on pulse. That way I can manually toggle a wither to be spawned whenever I want it to be spawned. So whenever we place the items in, I don't want a wither or a bunch of withers being placed in here and summoned. So that's just kind of a safety net for this particular block. Now, let's remember the show area. This is where it's actually going to spawn. And thankfully the wither is just going to sit there. It's going to do its explosion thing. And with this tinted glass, we are going to be protected, and all of our blocks should also be protected. Now, these will probably get knocked off potentially. I don't actually know. These are in here to kind of help me see the edges, because it's really hard to see inside of here whenever you don't have night vision. For example, it is completely solid black in here. Yeah, very difficult to see. Now, how am I going to get the items in here? I think an EMC link is going to be a really good option for this. We don't have to go with anything crazy, just like I think 64 items would be more than enough. Like, for example, an MK7. And we're going to do soul sand for this. So right over here, I'm just going to place this on this side, and then I'm going to put soul sand in here. And then we just tell this, hey, how about we pull in the soul sand? And for some reason, there's a separate slot for the bottom. So we can say pull, and there we go. That pulled soul sand. And then this side should also be set to pull. That is interesting. There is 2 separate soul sand slots. Both of them are controllable, but not all of them are fillable. What is even going on here? Now, the reason I sound confused there is because, well, I've never actually seen that happen before. Very interesting on that part. Maybe if I use a pipe, it all fills up, and it does. So for some reason, there's 2 soul sand slots here. That might be an actual bug right now with the mod. But the mods update all the time, and so in a prior version, there may not be a bug, and in this version, there may be a bug. It can happen very, very easily. But now we have this wither skeleton skulls. I'm going to set it to pull from the other side, but I don't think we're going to really have to worry about that too much, because what I plan on doing is I plan on just using a modular router to pull the items from here and just send those skulls into this. And now this whole operation is going to be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to have a sender module that is going to be sending from a modular router that we have over here. Now on this, I have a puller that essentially is in whitelist mode that has a skull in it, so that way nothing else gets pulled into our buffer slot, and it's pulling from the right. So the sender module says it's out of range, so we are going to have to add some range upgrades until it says it's within range. For example, right now it's within range, I think. Now it says it's within range, so that should work. Nope, it says out of range. Okay, so we got to keep adding range upgrades until it says it's within range. And now it's within range, and notice it is sending wither skeleton skulls right here into the top slot. So voila, we now have the wither skeleton skulls in here, and we also have ourselves some soul sand. Before I fully turn this on and go ahead and place down a timer, which is it's going to default to every second, I do want to kind of count down and see roughly how long this takes. So by default, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and build a little glass barrier right here. Now the range for this should be within range. I just got to get a range upgrade placed inside. I think I have it in my inventory. Yep, right there. So that should be plenty of range and should be able to take out the wither no problem. It is pretty quick, so we shouldn't even have to worry about manually killing or anything. This is going to do the job. But what I do have to worry about is that time interval. So I've got that like sort of protected, and we should be able to pop out of here, hopefully not aggro it, and count. So by doing that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So like 11 seconds roughly. And now notice it did aggro on me. And I think it was because it was able to see me once it spawned. So I'm going to say 11 seconds, give or take, is a good amount of time to sort of wait between pulses. And we can actually set this, I think, within this by default. And so we kind of have to do the math. So 11 seconds is going to equate to 11 times 20. So just to be safe, I'm going to do 12 times 20. and that's going to leave me at 240 ticks. It's going to wait in between pulses, and this should store that, I think. So yeah, it does store it, so I can pick it up and I can move it. And what you want to do is you want to point this towards this block. So I'm going to point it. Let's go ahead and remove that real quick. I want to point it towards this edge of the block, and that's what's going to determine where this gets placed. So it's going to face that direction, just like that. And now it should spawn the wither. Now keep in mind, it's probably going to toss it up in the air for right now. But yeah, it's going to fly up in the air. But see, another one already spawned. Let's go ahead and take out this one. Now this one shouldn't target me. There we go. It should just stay still. So long as it doesn't actually see you, it won't target you. And all of the drops, by the way, should go in here. However, if you want to farm these hearts, you do have to kill it by hand, I believe. And that, my friends, is the wither automated. Pretty darn cool. Now, of course, I want to muffle this explosion sound. So what I'm going to do is pop into my muffler, and we are going to add another anchor. Yeah, and I think this one is fine, leaving the radius 32. I'm going to accept that, and I think it's like just explosion. Generic Minecraft explode, and I've got to remove that. Also, along with that, some of the other wither ambient sounds I definitely want gone. Now, as far as storing the items, I do want to get my applied energistics system ran into this room. So I think in the middle of the room, I'm just going to place one of those connectors. But all I got to do is go ahead and say, hey, output over here. That's going to push the stars into this. And then I went ahead and made a supreme black hole tank, which is like a nearly infinite fluid storage. It's kind of crazy how much fluid this can actually store. And that just utilizes the max tier machine frame, which you should have access to if you've already gotten this far. So we now have a ton of really cool automation tools. And I just want that essence to be pushed over here, because this essence can be used for things later on. And attached to the bottom of these, I'm just going to place an external storage bus. And so that should allow me to see what's in here. And I am going to partition these to make sure that we don't send anything else if we were to run out, for example. But now with that in there, we now should see those nether stars in our system. Look at that. Now, because this is going to drive me crazy if I don't do it, I'm going to put the muffler upgrades in here, and that is going to stop that laser from displaying going from one location to another. So with that, step one is now done. Wither farm complete. Well, this now leads us to more automation stuff, and we are going to need to start working on nitro blocks. So to be able to actually make nitro in the first place, or nitro blocks, well, we probably want to up our current automation for this. And as of right now, this is definitely getting us by. This is pretty darn good. We have it all the way up to spirited, but we can go higher. But recently, in the latest update, I have added a few things. For example, we now have the ability with with Power to actually make something that's been requested for a while, this right here. Blazing blocks. So we did have to get a custom block made for blaze blocks, so a compressed version of blazes, but we were able to add this recipe in here. So now we have all of the blocks have a compressed actual recipe. And so what this does is this changes our recipes here. So no longer are we going to have to worry about sending them in one at a time. Instead, what we can do is we can exchange all of these recipes here. And an easy way, by the way, to clear recipes is by making a pattern modifier. Oh, this thing is so good. And you can use this pattern modifier to just simply clear a bunch of blank patterns. It is so good. You can also multiply the amounts. And so I have done that on these. For example, I upped them to 8 times. So now this machine will basically do 8 sets. And I've also got them kind of upgraded here. For example, if I go to craft some alloy, I do want to upgrade this to a much, much faster setup. But for right now, we can see it now sends all of them in one go, which does make it a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and up these patterns. So now we're just going to be sending blocks of this material at a time, and same for the blaze. However, we are going to have to make some extra crafts. So for example, we're going to need to say, okay, well, compress me up some blaze rods then. All of these are going to be regular crafts though. And we also need to make sure that we have some of these other things automated. Like for example, we got to make sure we have the blocks of diamonds craftable, or at least have access to them in EMC, which this, by the way, once we make this, all of our EMCable items are going to be accessible to us. It's honestly, it's going to be such a game changer once we have this done. So let's go ahead and actually do so the nitro doesn't have a block form because of its complex recipes, but notice it is going to use the block of crystal, which should actually make this craft a bit faster. And this does give you 16, which is actually a bit more than a single block would technically be worth, if it was in parity with everything else, that is. So let's put this back in here, and we've now upgraded our efficiency by a ton. And now we have the ability to make nitro. Now, nitro still is probably going to take a little bit of time considering the power that we have these set to, with them only crafted up to spirited, but this cable should be able to keep up. And I still have not figured out exactly what my max potential is on RF transfer rate with the flux ducts. It really feels like it's absurdly high compared to a lot of other pipes. So let's go ahead and get this into the crafter. So just got to add that pattern in here. Beautiful. And now let's try to craft nitro. Okay, so it says some ingredients could not be extracted from the network, and that was redstone. So when some things are being used, that might happen. Let's just grab some redstone blocks because I may actually be nearing or out of them. Oh, I think what it's doing is I have this set to redstone, right? This EMC link. But the reason why it couldn't craft it is because these EMC links limit the transfer rate. And this is where I had mentioned this before, that we might encounter this issue. But that issue will go away very, very soon as we have this up and running. So we just need at least one. But now that I have some in storage, now it should be able to craft it. And we should be able to see this operation happening so fast. It's just going to require the power. And there we go. We now have nitro. And that means we now have ourselves a nitro block. Now, one of the other things we're going to need that is power related is going to be the rainbow core. So this is going to be a part of our Architron block that I'm slowly but surely getting things ramped up to make. And the rainbow core is the culmination of 2 netherite furnaces and a little bit of stained glass of just varying types. So the main part is those netherite furnaces. And I don't think I've set up any auto crafting for those, or I had auto crafting, I think, set up for some of the furnaces. No, I've just crafted them all by hand. Okay. So that means I've got to go through here and I've got to work my way. And I think the best way to do this is to start at the highest tier furnace. I am going to have substitutions enabled for this. And I'm going to go ahead and just start crafting through these. I think the emerald one is probably pretty good, even though the diamond one, actually the diamond one will be good later on because it actually holds EMC value a little bit better, because emeralds, we don't have EMC values technically for those, I guess you could say. So I'll go ahead and keep crafting through these. Most of this stuff we have, it's just a lot of repetitive sort of crafting. That's why you definitely want to have auto crafting. A lot of this is honestly an auto crafting check. I'm like, hey, have you checked? Have you got your automation set up yet? Because you're going to need it. So see if we can get this netherite core. I need 2 of these. And voila. So that is ready to go. And now we just need to craft up one of each of these stained glass and get them EMC'd. And this has to be one of the easier things to craft. There we go. Now we have ourselves a rainbow core. Now I think I mentioned the ludicrite last episode, but ludicrite is honestly a pretty interesting thing and component that is a part of the later tier part of bigger reactors. But you don't actually need to do any of bigger reactors to make this, but you may already have this if you did get into bigger reactors. Now, the way that you would do this without getting into bigger reactors is you would make yourself some cyanide dust. Now, we are going to need uranium, and we're going to need a little bit of it compressed. Specifically, I think, like the mech uranium. And what I need to do is I need to get that pulverized up. And so that should get us some uranium dust. And I can then craft that with some sand, and we get ourselves some cyanide dust. Now, this, I believe, smelted produces cyanite. And we have that now in here. And this tells us in the tooltip that this needs to go in a reprocessor. So a reprocessor does require a little bit of bigger reactors infrastructure. That is going to be basically charcoal. And the easiest way to get that is just charcoal. And we just smelt a bit of it. So it goes in here and that makes graphite ingots. Now, I personally love bigger reactors as a decoration mod at this point. It's really good for power too. but honestly, it can be made into a really, really nice looking center point or like multiple different parts of a base. And it could really add some really nice atmosphere to your base, having these really cool looking futuristic reactors. And so if you happen to have bigger reactors set up, it will produce cyanite as a byproduct of burning through the raw uranium. But in this case, we're actually crafting up that byproduct. I'm gonna go ahead and get more of those smelted in. And now I have my reprocessor, and I believe this is going to need some water. So I'll go ahead and slap some of that on here. And yes, this does need water. So I'm going to hook an exporter with a cable. And because we have water in our system, I can use Applied Energistics to send water, which is pretty nice. Not buckets. We actually need regular water. There we go. And so given a little bit of time with that exporter, it does, I think, take a minute. There it goes. It's going to ramp up and we have water in here. And it takes, I believe, 2 cyanide ingots in order for it to convert down into 1 of the plutonium that we're going to need. And plutonium is what's going to allow us to handcraft our ludicrite. I can, of course, speed this up with the little bit of power that I've saved up. And that should go very, very fast. There we go. I also put some speed upgrades to get that water pumping in there faster. So now I know this isn't automated yet, but I'm actually really pushing for a very specific block that we are going to get after we craft this Architron. And that is going to be the transmutation interface. This thing is so nice if you've either gotten it from Quest early on or you get it at this point in the pack. So with that, you can either go the Enderium route or you can go Nether Stars. And in our case, we have Nether Stars automated and I also have Emeralds automated. So getting the Ludicrite block, pretty straightforward. And so now for the fun part. This is going to be kind of interesting actually. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and craft in world some of these new components from the applied flux mod. And I think if you just do flux, you'll be able to see them. And so right here is the redstone crystal, and this is an in-world transformation, so you just need to throw it into water. So you're gonna need some flux dust, some skystone dust, and some redstone, and you should get quite a few of these. For right now, I'm not gonna fully automate these, but they are fully automated, and there's a ton of different ways you can drop these into the world with Applied Energistics, which is kind of cool, and then also collect them back up. Or you can go this route. It's a little bit more expensive to do it this route, but this route is going to be a much simpler way to automate it. So be sure to turn the magnet off. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in, tossing all of those items in, and this is going to produce something very interesting. So this mod essentially allows us to power machines and store power within our Applied Energistics system. And yes, you heard me right, inside of the Applied Energistics system. And it can store a lot. So do not be fooled and think it's some weak mod. No, no, no. It can store so much power that you may never fill the top tier disk. And it's very interesting. It almost stores your energy as an item that would be inside, or a fluid inside of your actual terminal. So on an exporter where you're exporting items, you would also export your energy out of the interface to go into those machines. And then there's also an induction card which will allow this to, for example, go on other machines that don't have that sort of output setting functionality. For example, an interface or a pattern provider. And this is pretty cool. Now, we just need to make the flux accessor, and this is what would allow you to send the power into your system to be stored inside of these storage cells. And I kind of want to work on that. Now, I am going to need these circuits, which means we need an entire inscriber setup that requires a new type of inscriber. And we need to just toss that in a charger. So I'm going to toss a few of these in here. That should charge right up. And there we go. So I'm going to make 4 of these because just like all of our other presses, I want to be able to request them in the same way. And this is going to allow me to start placing our setup over here. Oh, it's going to be very nice. So I'm going to grab a cable, run a simple cable up through the middle here, and we just need a pattern provider. And this pattern provider is going to supply our inscribers for this section. So I'm going to place it just like this on the bottom. And so now we're giving that other side some actual functionality, which is going to be very nice. And I can access that pattern, by the way, from within here. Now, I think I'm going to need 2 of these, right? No, I can actually just add this as that final processor over on to our full processor section. Okay, so we just got to get this in place. So this is the recipe right here. We want to get rid of this. I think I want to increase the value here to 4. And an easy way to do that, of course, you can do it within there, but I can toss it in here and I can hit this with the multiple thing. And notice this now is a recipe of 4. So that makes it a little bit simpler. And I'm going to place this here. This is the inscriber that we just created. So now I should be able to make these. Now, this does require us to have a charger set up for automation. But you know what? For right now, I'm just going to toss these in. But soon, we are going to get this set up because I do want to start using this. And those redstone parts are now charged. And we need at least 2 of these. So almost time to test our setup because we got to get one more crafting recipe done. And that's this one. And so I am going to multiply this by 4 as well. Like that. And this one goes in the same section as all of our other finished processes. So just like that. So I now should be able to request those so long as I have enough of these components. So I'll toss those in here. And I want to stand over here so I can watch this work in action. And let's go ahead and request 2 of those. And we should see this final part down here, once everything fully gets crafted up, should hopefully process. I say should, because that also means that the first step has to actually initiate. And I think the reason why it's not working is because I forgot to toggle a few settings over here on. Just like our settings that we have on these. I've just got to make sure that they are all consistent and make sure the auto export is turned on because you can see it did send them there. And we also want to limit our inputs into this. And it would probably also help if I had these placed in. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and cancel the craft. I got a little ahead of myself. I didn't even put the plates in. Oh man. There we go. Now they're all in. And now I can request 2 of these. And now it should work. So there they go. They all went inside there to be processed up. For some reason, it still stacks to 4. Later on, this is all going to be changed. They can do up to 16 at a time. I think it's because I didn't put this in blocking mode. There we go. Now it's in blocking mode, and now it should work and do it 4 times faster. Okay. Beautiful. That is done. And that should be crafted. And there we go. So now we have all of those ready to go. And it crafted a batch of 4, even though I requested 2. Beautiful. And that is all we're going to need, right? We just need an energy acceptor. And voila, I now have a flux accessor. Now be careful because this next step is incredibly hard. I'm just kidding. This is actually going to be pretty straightforward. So the blazing rod right here, to be able to get this special blazing rod, we have to place a blaze rod and power essentially a blazing agitator. And this is a very, very simple little block, and it doesn't really require too much to get. I just kind of put this in here to kind of show that there is a cool way of generating power within RFTools. And there's actually a couple of cool different ways. You can use ender pearls that can generate quite a bit of power, several thousand. And then this is another way that you can do it. So let's get a gate, and we just need to simply send it power and agitate up a blaze rod, I do believe. Now, once you give it a little bit of time, you're going to notice that time is starting to build up, but you don't really have to let it fully charge. We should be able to just pull it out, and that should complete that. It doesn't require anything special. It just needs to be agitated just ever so slightly. Just like I probably did by making you go through that process. So we now have just about everything ready to go. But there is another key component, right? It's the power that we're going to need for this. And at our current tier, these can output 40,000 RF per tick. And I think that will overstress our entire power grid. So our power grid's about to be put to the test. And hopefully it can withstand what is about to be done to it. If not, we're going to have to cut power to this and potentially reset and wipe the progress. Oh, that will be pretty bad. But I think we have all of the blocks lined up and ready to go. So let's just try it out with our 100 RF per tick power that we're generating. We do have quite a bit. And the power that this is going to need is max in. So 32-bit max integer limit. Oh man, perfect timing for that quake to happen while this is happening. But it's going to take that power, and we're going to notice, oh man, it's going to be draining our buffers, I think, on our power reactors for sure. I have 3 of them down here, but these are, these are draining the buffers. But yes, it is 1 less than the max 32-bit integer limit, which is what you could set it to. And I just thought that was kind of funny. But it is a lot of power, and it is a nice amount to sort of require here. But it's going to take a while, and it's going to consume all of our power. And this, in my opinion, was a power check. And at this point, I have essentially failed it. Well, kind of, because I still just want to get this one done. But for automation, this is 100% a power check in this regard. It does take quite a bit of power to actually produce this. Now, I'm noticing, I think we've actually hit a transfer limit on these flux ducts. And I still don't know what that transfer limit is, but we've definitely hit it because these are no longer pulling out that power anymore. And I think it's because we're not actually sending out of our cell. This should be sending out, but let's go ahead and we'll direct this to the east side and we'll send that to extract, I think. Yeah, extract, I believe. Should work. Honestly, that should work. And these should all be accepting power as well. But it's definitely hitting a limit. Either way, this is just going to take some time. I think in the meantime, I'm going to start figuring out where I want these portals to lead to, because I need a place for Mekanism, and I also need a place for some other machines that I want to set up and automate. And it's now at 99%. Oh, it's almost there. And oh man, I've done a little bit of waiting and it's done. It has now crafted. Oh man. We'll take a look and here it is. There's the Architron block. Done. Oh, and so now we need to research this immediately. Oh man, so all of that time and effort, all for this block right here. Oh boy, is it a beautiful, beautiful block. Of course, all of these blocks are decorative, so you can definitely place them around your base. I do want to put a display area for some of these blocks. It's going to be pretty darn cool. But this block is a major milestone, and we're going to get into that more next episode, as I do plan on completely kind of changing the way we deal with EMC when it comes to any of our storage mods. And so now I'm sure you're excited to see what plans I come up with for all of these portals, and I do have some plans for them already in the works. I'm already starting to plan out an RFTools dimension, possibly for each one of those portals. So we'll have access to stuff in an entirely different dimension, and that is going to be, well, something that we have to do in another episode, because today we're all out of time. But I hope you guys did enjoy today's episode, and if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And with that being said, it's now time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to JG24. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. And guys, if you're looking forward to joining the Discord, you can of course find that link down in the description below, or you can go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. Also, while you're down there looking at all of those links, you might as well check out my second channel, Chosen Live. If you want more content that is very much like my Twitch live streams, which is of course all of my Twitch VODs, you can of course find that at Chosen Live here on YouTube. And with that being said, guys, I thank you so very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye!